Everyone, so hopefully this works right, because I have okay, it doesn't want to. We are going to have to add a new source. Sorry, just a minute. There. Well, I'll show you what the other one is in a while. But I want to get this open first and start working on this. So sorry about the sound in the background. If it's too loud, let me know and I will turn it off. But it's hot here, really hot. And so, yeah. I'm trying to think of how to put this because I don't like quite the way we've got her pack. We've got her reflecting back, and I want to. Aha! Here. What? Aha! Thinking back on it. No, I didn't want. I don't want her. I was gonna say she'd just come back from Laura's house, but no, I've got it going out the window. I'm live. That's fine. I'm just silly. I asked Danny if he could come up. Yeah. It took a while before I finally did it. I'm like, I can't. There's no way. But is it cooler outside than in here? No. Okay. Then I'm not turning it off. I don't care. Unless the stream says it's too loud. Actually, maybe I should. I'll turn it off for right now and go from there. Turn it back on after the stream's over. Let's go over. And let's see. Well, I think I'm having trouble figuring out figuring what I want to do. So let's go capture a window. Okay, hopefully that'll get bigger. So, what is going on? Because there should be more than that. Let's see if I log back in at a... They have Reese's Puffs and stuff like that in the boxes for 99 cents. They only. Yesterday was the only. It was working the last time I checked. Come on. I wonder if it's this. Uh-huh. I don't think it is. Oh, it is. Just gotta wait for something to come across my phone. I do too. I can hear them too. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with this because I should have. Be a lot bigger than this. What's going on? Let's see if we quit completely and reopen it if it behaves. I want to have something you guys can enjoy and do while I'm talking. Because it says I should have. It says I should have. Okay, this has even worked. Oh no, it says I'm here. It doesn't want to let me. Aha, there. But it's not obviously working. That's bad. Okay, let's see if we can try one more time. And if it doesn't work, then I'll know that and I'll have to figure out if there's another way we can. Nope. Okay, we'll just go back to my story. And I'll have to figure out later how to stream that because it's not working. So, a loud pack. So I'm writing a crossover story between Harry Potter and vampires. So kind of explaining vampires in the wizarding world and in the regular world, in that world of Harry Potter. What happens, why we only hear of, so in the books we hear that there are vampires, but we only specifically find out about a couple of them. And so kind of taking that and merging it with some of the werewolf romance novels. Now, this won't end up a romance novel, but kind of taking that idea and merging it. What if a werewolf child in Britain, which, according to the romance novels, there's not many packs there. What if one of their children ended up magical, like Hermione did? What would happen? And having it be such that, so part of it, up to this point, there's this pack that stays hidden from humans. And I'm kind of going into writing what happens. Etc. So the reason I'm doing it on stream is I usually play Wizards Unite or other Harry Potter games. Well, one time we got talking about stories and writing for some reason, and I mentioned that when I was in school, I mentioned that I don't write like most people. I'm editing constantly while I'm writing. I literally, if something isn't making sense, I will stop and fix it before I move on. I can't leave it not fixed. So I frequently would get in trouble with teachers when I was in school of turning in a final draft or a close to final draft and not my first rough draft. And yet what I'd turn in would be the first thing that got finished. And they couldn't understand that. The teachers couldn't. And also of how I could, when the teacher would give stories where, okay, the teacher gives you the beginning of the story and you're supposed to write the end. Usually they say something like, it needs to be at least a page or 2 or 3 that you write. Well, for me, the teachers would frequently then start to say, but no more than this many pages. Because I would read the story that was given, stop and think for a while, which all the kids would sit down and start typing on the computer, but they would, they'd type a tiny bit and stop and think and, stop for a while, etc. And I would sit back and I'd just think. And sometimes if the teacher hadn't heard of me or didn't know me, hadn't experienced my writing style before, they'd get mad that I wasn't working, and I'd just I'd say, I'm thinking about trying to figure out the story, and I would think about what had happened and where, and then as soon as my mind started working, I'd start writing, and I'd write and write and write and write and write and write until it was ended. And when the teachers put a limit on it, that made it even more difficult, and I'd have to then I'd write it out and then condense it. But a lot of my regulars wanted to see, and so I've been writing. So it took a little while. I had to get a computer that would work with streaming. I finally got my laptop, and I also had to come up with an idea for a story because I did need some constraints. I don't know how it's going to end. What I do know right now is that she's going to meet her friend at the train station, and that's when her and her family are going to realize that her best friend and her best friend's family are witches and wizards. Or, well, at least her mother is a witch. I haven't decided, and I think I've decided that her friend has older siblings that went to Hogwarts or are going to Hogwarts. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to decide on that. But they'll find out when they get to the train station. Until that point, neither of them are talking to the other about it, because you wouldn't unless you knew they were. And the only hint that she is happened early enough that they haven't talked about it, so they don't realize. And so when she finds out from reading the Harry Potter books that how they think about werewolves. And so she's not telling anyone she's a werewolf. And unlike Remus Lupin, who goes crazy every full moon, she has control over her werewolf, her and her pack. If you have control over it, and kind of trying to explain that, because honestly, I don't quite like the way JKR has put it, that somehow, some way, you would have this gene that if you're bitten, you become a werewolf. But one, werewolves don't become extinct over time. And at the same time, they stay rare. If there were very many around, you'd get everyone bitten. If there weren't many around, you'd think eventually it would become extinct. So how could this gene not become extinct, but be rare? And every time you're bitten, you live through it. Or I mean, not you live through it, but every time only a few people are bitten. How does this happen? And so I'm trying to explain that, and the idea being that there is a pack of werewolves, and the witches and wizards who are bitten, okay, they're bitten. But what it is who they've been bitten by throughout history has been criminals from this pack. Like the pack itself isn't criminals, they've been kicked out of this pack. And then they're bitten. And also explaining how, like, Teddy isn't a werewolf, but how that gene can continue to be passed down and stuff. So going into all of that. And explaining all of that. And honestly, I think everyone's creative in their own way. Each person has their own thing that they're creative with. And that may sound weird, but other than math, every school subject is creative. Science is using that creativity in a different way. Athletics is using that creativity in a different way. And what I mean by that is, okay, let's say you're athletic. With football, when you huddle, you have to plan, how are you going to get past the other team? And even then, even without the huddle, you have to think creatively on how you're going to avoid the other team. Yeah, okay, you do this and you do that, but literally that's all writing is, or other creativity things, is you are problem solving. So if you can problem solve in anything, in science, etc., honestly, math is even creative there. How do you get from x plus y, how do you get x plus y equals z, especially if you have a graph, things like that. Yeah, you follow this path, but how do you figure out what path to follow? Well, creativity is literally just following a path. And as you follow, and I've talked about people who are creative are smart at math and science and stuff, but it's also the opposite. People who are into math and science, if they were to stop and think about it, they are also creative. They just are taught that they're two separate things. So if you think about how do you get with math, how do you get from one place to the next in a way that, first of all, whoever the first person to come up with each new math equation was creative. How do they get along these lines? It's not like it was just given to it was always there, even though it is a fact that you do this. How do we get to that fact? So there's that. There's, and it was creativity. It was, if something doesn't make sense, you come up with an answer for it. But we in our society, we've been taught to separate things rather than look at it from other perspectives. You can only be creative or only be good at math or math and science, logical. You can't be creative and logical. is what we're taught. And you only are creative if you do this, this, and this. Or you're only good at math or science if you do it this way. Rather than actually acknowledging that it's all there. It's learning to use the way our brain works and the way we think that actually causes us to be able to use it. It's like any muscle. If you don't write very often, you aren't going to be able, you can write, but the more you write, the better you become. One part of that is reading. If you want to be able to, and this is said over and over and over and over and over, the best writers out there read a lot. And then they write what they'd like to read. That is generally the way the best writers write, is they read a lot and then they write what something that their brain is working on that they'd like to read. So for me, I thought of I knew I wanted to do Harry Potter because that's what this channel is about. Something along Harry Potter. But I knew using the characters themselves, they're copyrighted. But JKR has said that the world is open. That people can create grandkids for Harry and Hermione. My understanding, we could use their kids and tell a story about their kids. Anything JKR has not written, she has thrown out to the world and said, go for it. That's okay. You can use it. So I knew that. I knew, honestly, I did not feel with everything out there with the Harry Potter books, with Cursed Child, with Wizards Unite. Harry and Hermione are overdone. Or maybe not overdone, but to try and get another story in there that could be looked at, could fit nicely into canon. Yep, they are the Golden Trio, but to try and get a story that used that trio and fit into canon would be very restrictive. There's only that would be hard. Especially if you use Wizards Unite too. Because if you use Wizards Unite, you now have a whole nother story going on that we don't know the answer to. What's gonna happen with them? How is this gonna play out? Now, you could hint on them while not using them. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I found a area that was basically untouched. What we know about that area of the wizarding world is almost no. And that's what when I was trying to think of what to write, what I was looking for. And so that's what we're doing. Is I found an area, then I try. Basically, it's easiest to be creative if you're given a box. And so I gave myself a box to think in. And now I'm letting my brain run wild inside that box. So I'm gonna just do this. I can't think of a last name for them right now. I need to figure this out, and it's getting late. So I'm going to mark this to then to put that there. I'm going to find someone to raid, and we will go from there. Let me see. Discord. Oh, I know why I can't find anything. That's not going on today. Let's see. Ah, there's one we can raid. Okay, it's Art. Go have fun, and I will see you Monday. If it'll let me raid. There, now it's behaving. Okay, so I will see you Monday.